welcome back to the Brave Social Podcast. I'm your host, Jaden, and today we have Nicole with us. Nicole is a social media manager and web designer. She's amazing. She's incredible. She's great at what she does, and she's also a good person and a good friend. So we're really excited to have her on the podcast today. Nicole, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do?
Thank you for that sweet intro. I'm Nicole, social media manager and web designer. I started my business almost 3 years ago. This summer it'll be 3 years. I didn't always start in social media and web design. I kind of figured out that was the route I wanted to go maybe like 6 months into starting my own business. I started as a virtual assistant, which I feel like a lot of us start in that route.
And then I've heard that a lot.
Yeah, it's a good way because then you kind of dip into all these different avenues with virtual assistants. And I was dipping into social media and realizing that I really loved that side of business and kind of helping businesses get creative with how to market themselves on socials. And then I discovered design last year as like a second passion, which is so different than social media. But I dabbled in that and now I offer that as a service. So yeah,
so
I'm
cool.
Very excited to be here. Thank you for having me. And we actually met on
Threads, I think.
I wanted to say Twitter so bad, and then I'm like, oh my God. I don't even use Threads anymore, but that's how we met. So another social platform, social media bringing everybody together.
For real. That's how I've met like literally all of my friends. It's crazy. I'm like, I only meet them on social media. Threads is a crazy place, so I do not blame you for not wanting to be there. But yeah, we're so excited to have you today. And one thing you're really, really good at, especially on social media, is like subtle selling. I think people also hear the term like soft selling. And I think those are kind of interchangeable. But why don't you tell us a little bit about like your thoughts behind subtle selling and how you think it's helpful for businesses right now?
Yeah, so I think with social media, it's evolving, it's changing all the time. Like really social media is new. Like it's only been around for like 20, 30 years. So I think we're kind of still navigating it, and just like people, like social media is always evolving because our preferences and what we want to consume is always changing. So
Yeah.
I think, you know, a few years ago, like it was as easy as just like promoting your offers or promoting your services, and you know, now it's kind of more about subtle selling. And that's because there's so many ads on TikTok and we're constantly seeing people just like throw stuff in our face, like buy this, buy that, whether it's influencers or whatever it is. So I think everybody's just kind of sick of being sold to, especially also in the economic world that we're in. Like that's another reason that I think selling changes is like the economic state of, you know, what the world is in. So that kind of plays a part too of why it's so important to kind of nail down this subtle selling with your business, even if you're an influencer or creator, because people just don't want to. It's kind of like being a car salesman. Like no one loves an annoying car salesman. Like everybody tries to avoid it, and that's kind of what we want to avoid is being like our entire feed or our entire marketing just be promo, promo, promo.
Like always selling.
Yes. Yeah.
How do you feel? Well, I guess I have two questions. One of them is actually a statement. And yeah, we are being sold to like so much. I was scrolling TikTok the other day and I was just like, what is happening? Like literally every other video or more was like TikTok shop. And I was just like, this is out of hand. Like,
I know.
Why are you feeding me all of this sales content? Like, it makes me literally not want to go on TikTok.
I know. And I hate it too, but like, I get it from like their business perspective because that's how Vine died off. They were paying out all these creators and they weren't making enough money. And that's why Vine shut down years ago. And so I think TikTok is scared of that happening to them. I don't know like how much money they make, obviously, but I know that that's why they're pushing out all these ads because they also need to make money because so many people now want to be influencers and want to make money through TikTok. It's like they're running out of money to give people. So like I get it, but also annoying.
And it's annoying. And also you have to be like as an influencer so much more subtle about how you are selling. Like I was watching some TikToks and the girl was saying like brands always want me to follow a script and they want me to like do this specific thing with their product and blah blah blah, like hit all these bullet points. And she's like, but what they don't understand is like that's not going to work for them. Like what works way better is if like I use their makeup in my normal makeup routine and like literally don't even make a big deal out of it, just like use it in my routine very subtly. That's what
Yeah.
actually works, which is just interesting because it's like the same for us and businesses on Instagram.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like that you said that. Like, I think it's important as a consumer when you're trying to market your own business to think about how you consume content and what you're purchasing. Like, was it something
Yeah.
that you subtly saw, or was it like you connected with that person really well and you knew that you wanted to work with them or you wanted to buy their service or their product or whatever it is? So I think thinking in that terms too, because same, like if I see something on TikTok not being promoted at my face, but like in the video, I'm like, oh, and I already like connect with that person, then I'm
Yeah.
like 90% likely to buy it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's an interesting like take two, is just thinking like them. And then also what you were saying about ads, like I saw something in like the digital marketing trends for 2024 is influencers and creators are going to have such a bigger say in how they market things rather
Yeah.
than to the company, because they know their audience so much better and they know what they're going to buy. And so I feel like businesses can also take that too and just think like, you know your audience and know what they want to see and how they want to buy. And once you nail that down, then marketing it will be so much easier and that subtle selling will be so much easier.
Yeah, I do think like brands totally have to let go of that control. Like the influencer knows their audience better than the brand ever could. So like making them sell it in a certain way is just like it's not going to work. It's too obvious. And like I feel like I can tell when like they have a script. I'm like, "Oh, you're like touching on all these points that like honestly I don't give one shit about." Like I just don't care, but I can tell you're like, "And it does this and this."
Yeah, yeah. And then I just like next, and then I'm like, it's just not authentic, and people can see right through that.
Yeah, which actually brings me to my question. So, you kind of talk about like storytelling, which is essentially what we're talking about, like making your selling not so explicit, like listing a bunch of the features that it has. It's way more interesting than that. So, can you tell us a little bit about storytelling?
Yeah. So I think it seems intimidating to a lot of business owners because they're like, how the heck can I make a story out of my service or my offer? And it's not like, it really shouldn't be that complicated. It can even be like a 6-second video, or like you can put it in a carousel. Like I think there just has to be a
Yeah.
problem, some kind of like climax, and then a transformation. Like there has to be like that, you're bringing them through the transformation almost, and you're nailing down, like going back to your target audience, you're nailing down what they're struggling with or what their pain points are and playing off of that in a way. So you're hitting those problems like from the beginning and stating, what they are, but in a
Yeah.
more entertaining storytelling way. It's not like
Yeah.
here are 3 ways to blah blah blah, or like you got to really hook them in with that problem awareness.
Yeah. Problem awareness is so important. That's huge. And I honestly like have struggled even with myself, just like figuring out what storytelling means. I think because like you want to think that telling a story is like reading a book or something, and it can be way more chill than that. It can just be like, here's the problem, here's how we solved it. Like that's it. Like they went from feeling confused to having clarity. Like it can be just like really simple. It doesn't have to be this big elaborate story. But
Yeah.
when you say storytelling, it kind of makes you think that it has to be like a novel.
Yep. Yeah, and there's I actually was just okay, so there's a podcast episode literally on storytelling. Like there's 7 factors to it, and it's on the
Yeah.
I don't know if I can promote another podcast on here.
Oh,
But
girl. Yes, you can. We'll
It's
link
called
it.
Media Marketing with Michael Stelzner. You might have heard of it. Everybody probably might have heard of it, but there's an episode on there that talks about like the 7 steps of storytelling. So I think that's really helpful to listen to. Like they'll kind of go more into detail, but that's a good one to listen to really understand what it's all about. And he basically says like it can be super simple. Like the first 4 things, like the character, the problem, the challenge, can all be explained in 5 seconds. Like
Yeah.
good kind of source to go to for more like in depth, because it is like an entire podcast episode. But I know we're just talking about subtle selling in this one.
No, we're good. We love tangents. So I also feel like Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller is really good for that too. Like it helped me get clarity on like storytelling in branding and in your messaging. Because again, yeah, it's like, no, we're not watching a movie. We're not reading a novel. Like it's a little tiny baby Instagram post, but you can still tell a story through that.
Yeah.
So another thing you mentioned was like personal branding, and how can that help you subtly sell?
Yeah, and this is like I'm sure everybody is so sick of seeing this everywhere on social media, but this is one of the ways that social media has evolved into 2024, and that's why everybody's hammering it home, because it seriously is like I said, people are sick of being sold to. So what do you do instead? Like we're obviously a business. We obviously need to make
You have
money.
to make money.
Right. And it's like everything is so saturated right now. Like they say Instagram's dying, blah, blah, blah. Like it's not dying. There's just so many people on social media. Like think of how many businesses have started in the last 3-4 years
Oh my
online.
gosh, especially since 2020.
Right. Like people were forced to start an online job because they were laid off or whatever. And then it inspired, new passions that they had that they didn't know they had. So, and then obviously the word spreads. So, I think this is where personal branding comes in, because this is the way that you're going to stand out in this like saturated market, is because no one can mimic you. No one can mimic your personal brand.
Yeah,
I mean, they can try, but like people will see right through
blocked.
it. Right. Like blocked, literally blocked. So like people will see right through it. So the best way to connect with people is to just build on your personal brand. And I think that's why it's like being hammered home so much, because that's the real way that you're going to stand out from everybody.
Yeah. Like at the end of the day, this is so cliche, but it's like people buy from you because you're you. And that doesn't mean you can be like so chaotic about what you post. Like you still need a strategy. But
Mhm.
by showing people like who you are, you really build that trust, and you build trust a lot faster. Like just think about it. When you're scrolling Instagram and there's a freaking faceless blah, 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 I literally cannot with those. But a faceless account, it's like you don't trust that. Like maybe they had got a lot of followers simply because like it's interesting and people are curious, but you're not
Mhm.
going to build the trust that you need to convert people quickly. Like it takes time, it takes months, it takes years to build that trust. But if you're a personal brand, it's so much quicker because
Yeah.
it's you. Like people know you, they've learned to trust you, they feel like you're their friend. And so when you have an offer, they're way more likely to jump on it than when you're not showing yourself at all, or like the only time you are showing up is when you are asking for money. It's like, well, when are you going to serve me? Like, I can't trust you immediately. Like, I need something, which actually, okay, so how do you feel about freebies? Like, because to me, selling a freebie, you're still selling it, but it's not, it's like, it's free. So how do you feel about that? Do you think it's kind of different?
I think it is different because it's a form of like you're putting out like a helping hand for free. It's
Yeah.
not like buy this, buy that. And the point is to get them into a funnel, into your email list, whatever it is. Like there is obviously that incentive for you, but you're literally giving out a helping hand. Like, and I don't think again, like it can be like the entire thing is like download this freebie, it'll help you. This is why, blah, blah, blah. Like you can still make the freebie into more storytelling, or maybe you're using it yourself and you put it in your story and then you're like, oh, this has actually saved me so much time. Like download it here. Like you're hitting those pain points and you're hitting the ways that it solves problems, and you're promoting it that way. You're not like, this is what it
Yeah.
includes. This is what it is. Like download my freebie. So even with freebies, there are ways to do it in a more entertaining, attractive way than just bullet pointing stuff.
Yeah, I feel like the bullet points of features, like that's what people struggle with. They want to be like, but like it does this, this, and this. And it's like nobody even knows that they have those problems yet.
Right,
Like you
right.
need to guide
Like,
them to understanding like that it is going to solve their problem, not just the benefit or the feature. Like, yeah, it's great that it includes story prompts or whatever, but that's not the problem. The problem is that they don't know how to show up on their stories, or they're too embarrassed to show up on their stories, or they're scared, or they think it takes too much time. Like, those are the problems that you need to call out before you're like, here's my free story prompts.
yeah, that's such a good point too. Like, I feel like we're mapping out and listing out their pain points, like, on our back end, but the client or who your target audience is not writing down their pain points. So, like you said, they don't know what they are, but once you say what they are, they're going to be like, oh my God, that is my problem. Like, I need help with this, this, and this. Like, so yeah, that's a
Yeah.
really good point too. Like, making them aware of what they're even struggling with in a way that maybe they haven't thought of before.
Yeah. And I do think it's a balance too. Like for me in my feed, I rarely sell in my feed, but my feed is constantly selling me. And I think that is the entire like embodiment of subtle selling, is that it's like there's no CTA. I'm not saying like go to the link in my bio. I'm not saying download this or download that. But that feed content is like the supporting content to always be selling me. And then for me, I like to sell in my stories, and I do kind of show up there every single day selling, but I have plenty of content that's not selling whatsoever. It's only giving, that like the balance is there.
Yeah.
And what would you say like that balance is? Like, is there a ratio that you feel like is good?
Wait, like a ratio of what?
Just a ratio of like how
Sell.
often your content should be like explicitly like selling, like this is my call to action, please download this thing or buy this thing, versus just like supporting content.
I feel like there's no right or wrong ratio. Maybe doing like 20% promotional. Like, I would
Yeah.
say if there's a brand new offer that you're launching, like for sure map it out and put a post and a story about it just so people know what's included. But I think before that, you should be hitting the pain points of what that new service or offer or whatever it is you're selling is going to solve. Like, build them up
Yeah.
to it. Like, oh my gosh, I have this problem. I need help with it. Then boom, there's this new offer service. And then from there, you can kind of go on with like the personal branding,
Yeah.
storytelling, more value given content rather than just promo. So maybe that's where the 20% comes in. Or yeah, like if sales are going on, but I don't know. Like, I feel like going back to personal branding and storytelling, like it's all about making them feel something too. So thinking of like, how is my target audience going to feel when they come on my page? Like, kind of get in their head and like analyze your own page, or even ask friends and family, or like maybe someone in your friend group who would be your ideal audience, or if you have someone like in your circle who would be an ideal client,
Yeah.
or just as like knows kind of your client, then get their advice on like, how does my page make you feel? Like, how do you
Yeah.
feel like you're given a lot of value? Do you feel like I'm supporting you? Do you feel like I'm like an authority in my niche? Like, how is it going to make you feel? And then, because I feel like it's all based on emotion, and that's how you're going to
Yeah.
like pull heartstrings and like get them to buy from you, is by making them feel something.
Yeah. Identifying like what are their fears, what are their desires, and how do you get them there? Yeah, I feel like audits are really, really good. That's why I started offering them, because
Yeah.
business owners just don't know. You don't know. Like, you might think you're selling enough and you're not. Or you might think you're not selling enough and you're selling too much. Or you may think you're providing a lot of value, but really your content is confusing. And
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with you. It's just that you are not your target audience. Like, for the most part, you're not. And so what's difficult is for you to see what they are seeing. It can be
Girl,
so easy to miss.
no, for real. And it's always like the most simple things. Like, when I get on audits with clients, like the main thing that is kind of quote unquote wrong with their page is that it is so confusing. I'm like, well, what exactly are you offering? or giving me, like, because it's like I feel like their content pillars are kind of all over the place, and like they're just
Yeah.
not really nailing down like what they're an expert at and what they're like there to help you solve. So it sometimes can, and like I feel like managing your own page can be overwhelming because it's like you are in the mix between what you want to post and what your target audience wants to see, and sometimes what you want to post
Yeah.
is doing anything for your page or for what you're offering. So that's
Yeah.
why, talking to a social media manager can be really helpful, because we're in the mindset of like nailing down your target audience and then making content based on that.
Yeah. And I always tell my clients, like, you can post whatever you want. It's just that whatever you want may not be what is going to pull in those clients and sell to them, Like, yeah, sure,
Yeah.
post whatever you want. But like at the end of the day, if you want more sales, posting whatever you want, unless you're the luckiest girl, is probably not going to like attract the right people.
Yeah, and it's hard. Like as business owners, your mind isn't on like social marketing. Like it's on scaling your business and doing what
Or
you do
your
best.
offer. Yeah. Or like if you're a photographer, it's like photographing. Like it's not, what should I
Mm-hmm.
post on Instagram?
Right, right. And it's hard to like have that expert brain in both. Like, we outsource things that we're not experts at. Like I have someone do my bookkeeping because my brain does not think like that. Like I have someone like I want to have someone to do my copy for my website because web design copy is not like copywriting for a website is not for me. So like
Yeah.
there are things, that you need to outsource that you're just like not, your brain just doesn't work like that. And that's okay.
Yeah. Totally fine. So another thing you mentioned was like building genuine relationships. How does building genuine relationships help you with subtle selling?
I think it all goes back to that trust factor. And when we're taught selling, we're taught the know, like, trust factor, which is you have to have your audience know you, and then you have to have them trust you, and then they will buy from you. So
Yeah.
that is really the like motto for these past couple of years in 2024, is that trust, like really focusing on the trust. So when we build relationships, you want to build a community of like-minded people. You want to build a community of people that trust you. So that means engaging on these social platforms, which is what social platforms were made for in the first place. All
Social
about
media.
social. Like it's not about sell my product. Here's what I offer. Like buy it. It's all about making those connections with people. So that is one of the, best ways that you're going to make those sales. If you're just totally ignoring the people that are following you, like people that are following you, that is people that already want to be in your community and already are interested in whatever it is you offer. They already feel like they relate to you in some way. So like build
Yeah.
off that and like look at the people that are in your followers and start to like really engage with them. And a lot of people, I feel like, overlook that, but it
Yeah.
is part of, marketing yourself on socials.
Yeah, it is huge. And I feel like one place where people get genuine relationships wrong is they're trying so hard to be the expert that they're not approachable, they're not friendly, I mean, sometimes I'm a little spicy in my content, but I'm never rude
Right.
in my
Right.
content. Or
No.
like their content just gets boring because they're trying so hard to be an expert, and like that boring content is not going to lead to a genuine relationship, no matter how bad you want it to. And no matter how much you're like, I am an expert, I know this, like, you guys should listen to me. It's like,
Mhm.
you have to be their friend about it. And sometimes friends have to tell the truth, and that hurts your feelings.
For
But,
sure. Friends should
but like,
definitely always tell the truth.
yeah. And so it's like those genuine friendships, like, you shouldn't be afraid to like call your audience out on things that like they're doing that is hurting them. Like, that will actually build the relationship instead of just being like, I'm an expert, here's what you should do. Like, that's not going to cultivate those relationships.
I am so excited to extend this offer to all of my podcast listeners. If you didn't know, we just launched Intentional Instagram. This course is for anyone who is looking to bridge that gap between actually reaching their ideal audience and converting them into paying customers. So, This is for you if you're posting every day, but you are not seeing the payoff. You can't seem to reach the audience that actually wants and needs your offer, and you're overwhelmed and frustrated with how much time Instagram is taking away from your business. Get ready to say goodbye to all of that and start showing up for your community on Instagram every day in under 30 minutes and with a lot more fun, and spend way more time at the beach, going for your hot girl walks or working on your next big thing, and also making more money with the content that you're already posting every single day. If you're listening to this and you want to get intentional Instagram, head to the link in the show notes and use code podcast for 20% off. I will see you there.
Yeah. And I think like talking down to your audience too is another one that I see a lot of people do, which I think we should be careful of, is
Yeah.
kind of off like we're not too good, but like kind of like a know-it-all. And it's not that you're maybe that type of person. Like it's just it's hard to like put your thoughts and put your knowledge down on social media, maybe without being in that tone of voice. So just watching your tone of voice too when you are speaking to your audience. Because I know like
Yeah.
sometimes even myself, like a year and a half ago, like I'll look back at old content and like the way that I'm talking to my audience makes me cringe. I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like I was talking down to them. So like really analyzing your tone of voice and just being careful that you're not like scaring them away or making yourself feel like, you know what I mean?
Like holier than them or something. Like
Yeah,
you're all like, you're all on the journey together. You may have more knowledge, but like you're not better than anyone.
right. Like just don't talk to them because that can come across like people won't want to watch that also or
Yeah.
read your
And there's
content.
like, I feel like the genuine relationships, like I've made so many relationships, like with you, with other social media managers, people in my industry. And I feel like people are scared of that because they're like, well, we're competitors. Like we can't be too good of friends, or like, I don't know. There's some weird energy around it, but I
Yeah,
actually don't give a crap about it. I'm like,
me
I will be your
neither.
friend. And you know what? It's actually helped me so much because I'll have clients come to me that I'm like, you are not a good fit for me, but I know this other girl in the industry who is a great fit for you. Like, I'm totally going to refer you to her, or vice versa. Like, I've had people refer friends or competitors refer people to me as
Yeah.
well because they're like, no, she's the girl for that. Like, I'm not. And
Hmm.
so those genuine relationships can also help you sell.
For sure. I mean, same with me. I feel like even with social media managers or other niches and you make friends with people, like you're like constantly referring one another. So that's a good point too of like building relationships. Like it's like you want to help each other grow, you want to help each other succeed. And same, like I feel like I've never been in the mindset of anybody is my competition. It's just, and it's weird that like I mean it's good that we've never had that mindset, but
Yeah.
it's like going off of the personal branding, no one I connect with my clients because we're very similar. You know, they love my work and I just feel like it was meant to be. Like I'm never feeling like someone is taking away my client or I'm taking away someone else's because,
No.
you know, it's just the type of people we want to work with and the type of niches we want to work with. And I don't know, like there's room for all of us on the online space, even though it is quote unquote saturated. Like there's more and more businesses starting every day. So there's more and more opportunity for work and things to be sold and people to sell
There's
to.
also like businesses closing every single day. Like,
Yeah.
okay, we're always like, oh, it's so saturated, but it's like there's people leaving the industry just as fast as there are people coming into it.
Mhm.
And yeah, like I don't know. I don't know. I just feel like if we're talking about subtle selling, it's so much more than just like the links you post on your Instagram stories.
Yeah.
It's
No.
deep. It's so much deeper than that. Like it just is. And that's what subtle selling like really is about.
Mhm. I think, yeah, being in the mindset of social media is not a selling point. It is a community building platform. Like I think just
Yeah.
framing it differently, like, you know, you're not getting on the app to constantly sell, you're getting on the app to find people that that you want to be in your community, that are like-minded individuals. Like you're just finding your people and you're finding ways to speak to them and getting creative with the content and just having fun with it too. Like not
Yeah.
taking it so seriously all the time, just having fun with it and showing your personality, your brand's personality in different ways, I think is going to attract the people that you want in your community. And then it kind of just like
Yeah.
success from there.
And people like want a community because they want to sell to them, which is ultimately the goal. You want them to buy from you, but your
Right.
community can be so much more than that. Your community can be your word of mouth marketing. Your community can be your cheerleaders that, keep you going when you feel like you want to quit. Your community can buy from you. Like your community can be so much more than just like a dollar sign.
Right. Yeah. And that's a good point too. Like I don't want to overlook selling here. Like that is the ultimate
Yeah.
goal, but I just reframing your mindset will take a lot of the pressure off,
Oh, yeah.
and kind of just building on the things that we just talked about.
And when you learn how to sell, like what I was saying about like my feed content rarely has a call to action that's like, buy this. It does sometimes, but rarely. And it's
Mhm.
because like I'm building that content to support a sale in the future. Like it's constantly selling for me, even though I'm not explicitly saying, buy this from me, because it's building that trust. It's giving that value. It's nurturing my community. It's bringing people together, which ultimately does lead to a sale, but down the road when I've earned it.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, I completely agree with that. And then also realizing too that there are different types of buyers. So
Yeah.
like making content that attracts all of those different types of buyers. So like social proof is another way to subtle sell, and that's for the buyer who's maybe more like they need a little more than just relationship building or connecting with you. Like they need that the analytics and they need the social proof of why they should buy
Yeah.
from you. So that's kind of going into like the more analytical buyer, but I think like knowing those type of buyers and then making content for them too is also really helpful.
Yeah. You said like people are sick of being sold to directly. They want to make the decision on their own.
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing on social media to support that?
So I think everything I just said, like kind of building on all of that, I think in the stories is kind of where I do a lot more of the selling. Like I'll kind of go into more of what my offers are or what my services are, and who it's helping and who I've helped. Like if I get off of a social media power hour, which is like my mini audit, I'll kind of go on and talk about what I went over with the client, like what their pain points are and things like that. So that's kind of I think I show more of the selling in my stories, but not so much like this is the audit and then bullet point the audit.
Yeah.
So really utilizing stories too, I think is a good way that I do that with that kind of adds on to the subtle selling for maybe the more analytical buyer who needs more of that proof. And then my feed, I feel like what you said, it kind of brings the value and it shows support. Like I'm here to help you succeed on social media. Like my thing is I'm a social media manager. I want to help you succeed in an authentic way and stand out online and do it in a way that feels aligned with your brand and not copying someone else's content. So my
Oh,
content help you with that. So it's kind of giving free advice because you can't like I know that they're going to still need my help. I'm not giving away so much that they still don't need my support because
yeah.
my way more than content on a feed. They're
A
still
hundred
gonna
percent.
yeah, but like it's like you're giving away free. You're their helping hand for free is what my feed is. Did I
Yeah.
say
Yeah,
that
no,
right?
I love that. And I feel like in your stories too, like a subtle way to sell in your stories is to just like you were saying, kind of follow along your day, like showing the embodiment of what you do is
Mm-hmm.
actually really subtly selling your offers by being like, I've just finished up an audit, like here's what we went through. People are like, "Oh, that's interesting. Like I actually want to go through that, or I need to go through that too, or maybe you mentioned something that makes me feel like maybe I'm doing that wrong or I could be doing it in a better way without even a link. There's like nothing going on that's like really directly selling it. But like I've done that and gotten DMs where people are like, wait, so what is this thing? Like, I feel like I want that. And it's like, I didn't even put the link, but I'm still selling it.
Right. Yeah. And then also stories are good too for, like you said, the kind of showing more into your life and building on the personal brand. I feel like that's where a lot of the personal brand is built, at least on Instagram, is in your stories.
Yeah.
Because if you are known for doing Pilates, every afternoon or every night, then put that on your story and people will be like, oh my gosh, I also do Pilates, blah, blah, blah. And you'll like build a relationship.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, even you and I were like, okay, music. Like, you know that I like music, and I know that you like music, and whatever. We share like some interests in that. So that is super interesting. But I just had a freaking juicy question. How do you feel about ManyChat then?
Personally, I've never used ManyChat, only clients, but I'm not against it at all. I think if there's like I think if you're getting an overwhelming amount of DMs or comments or whatever, then definitely utilize it because it's going to be a lot for you to manage on your own. So for my own business, I've never used it. I'm always about the genuine communication, but if it's like comment something on my post and then like you get an automatic, you know what I mean? If it's like automatic like that,
Yeah.
it's like overwhelming amount of comments or DMs. But other than that, other than an automation, it should always be genuine. Like you should always just be having like great conversations in the DMs.
Yeah, I can never decide how I feel about ManyChat. And I also feel like audiences are, I hope it's a long-lived thing, but it feels like a short-lived thing because it's like people are going to start being like, ew, they're going to get the ick. They're going to be like, oh my God, like you are so selling to me. I just
Mm-hmm.
know. And in your feed, especially, it's like, can I just get some value or like what? Where I do think it's helpful is for freebies,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
If you comment
still,
like if your CTA is like comment free and out, because I knew this one client who would get literally like 600 comments and like I'm not going to respond to every single one. So that's when
no.
like they would many chat. But other than that, because I don't really know like much about it. I've never set it up myself. I've
Yeah,
never
me either.
been on ManyChat, so I really don't. I've never even seen like what it looks like on the back end. So that's I guess says how much I am not against, but like I don't want to use it for myself or my clients.
Yeah. I feel like it's a super actually like niche thing. Like it only really works for like some people. And some of
Yeah,
them I will not name because I almost got canceled for naming them once. But for other like for smaller businesses, I'm almost like, oh, I don't think that's the move because like I don't want to say you're not big enough because that's not what I mean, but I'm just going to say that. Anyways, I guess you're not like big enough to do
yeah,
that because you still are in the phase of like building a cult like community. You're
for
not
sure,
to the stage of like just easy like conversions. I don't know.
for sure.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I feel
because
like it's dicey.
yeah, and I have had small like clients with a smaller following definitely ask me about it, and I always just say like no, like you don't have to do that. Like it's not necessary. Just answer them back yourself. I'll flag, I flag your DMs, whatever. But
Yeah.
it's unless it's an overwhelming amount and it's like comment that like I just don't see the point.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like it hurts that relationship. And like I said, I feel like audiences are going to start to be sus about it and like not participate as much because they're like, ew, I don't like this. And even like, I feel like the algorithm could start picking up on it as like kind of like a bot situation. I've actually wondered about that. It doesn't seem to flag it as like a bot situation going on. So they must be like in cahoots with ManyChat. I don't know.
Yeah, I
Because
never thought.
normally if you were to just get like the same comment a million times, they'd be like, wait,
Right,
your post would be like shunned.
right. Yeah, I never honestly thought about that. But they have
Me
to
either
have,
until right now.
yeah, I'm like, wait a second, because Instagram can be kind of strict about that sometimes, but I guess they might be working with ManyChat and
Yeah,
making exceptions.
they're in cahoots.
They're in,
Instagram, please just make it easier for us.
I know, please, please. Uh,
I kind of over the part where you were talking about social proof, but what are some ways that you can use social proof? Like you mentioned, like a testimonial, but what else is there?
Yeah, even doing like case studies, like, and you can make a client story not using their name in a storytelling context and make it
Yeah.
even change their name, or but you can make that into storytelling, and what the problem was, the climax of the story, and then kind of the transformation. Like, that's how make that into storytelling. You can do kind of, I guess, using it yourself, depending what the product or service or whatever it is you're offering. Well, UGC is a good way to do that if you're product based.
Yeah.
I would say using it yourself or having other people use it and reposting it to your stories, that creates that kind of like FOMO feel of, oh my gosh, like, it's like the fear of missing out. You want to use it yourself because you see everyone else using this product or service or offer. So the same thing with even audits. Like, if we post that we just got off a call with a client and we had all of these revelations, it's kind of that FOMO feel, and it's kind of that own social proof in itself. So I
Yeah.
feel like great ways to kind of show that social proof, but I guess it really depends on your niche too. I mean, there could be so many other ways to do it.
Yeah, I feel like recently I've noticed I've been doing a lot of collaboration posts because I have a lot of guests on my podcast. So like at least once a week I'm doing a collaboration post. And I feel
Yeah.
like that's even helped with social proof too, in a way, because your
Yeah.
audience is like, oh, this person is like well connected. I like hate that term, but I'm going to use it. Or like they
They build
are there.
relationship.
Yeah, they build relationships. Like these other people trust them enough
Mhm.
to collaborate with them on a social media post, which is actually kind of crazy. Like you kind of do have to
Yeah.
trust someone a lot to do that.
Mhm.
So I feel like that's another way to build social proof
Yeah.
as
And it
well.
gives that validation too of like, if you're on the fence of whether you trust that person or want to buy from them, and then you see that they maybe collabed with someone that you do trust, it's like, oh my gosh, it's like validating your feelings of, okay, I do trust this person. Like, so it's also that validation too, for sure.
Yeah, I love that. Is there anything you feel like we miss about subtle selling, or like any main themes?
Um, I don't think so. I think just like really people are losing the fun out of content, and like, it's just like sometimes you just can't take it so seriously and still hit on your content pillars, but also just experiment with content and experiment with all of these different things that we just talked about, and
I
build on
feel
the
like
chips.
Yeah, building on the relationships. I feel like people are scared to test content because they don't post enough. And this is kind of controversial, but I feel like if you want to experiment with content, like you need to post more. Because if you're only posting 3 times a week and you want one of those posts to be an experiment, it's like, okay, but what if the first two didn't do as good as you wanted? And then
Right.
that third one's an experiment and it flops. It's like you posted 3 pieces of content that week, but like none of them really got you closer to your goal. So I'm
Mhm.
almost like, if you want to experiment, like try posting for 30 days, like in a row, and see what happens, because then you're actually giving yourself enough data to go off of and see if those experiments are working or not. And I know that's a side tangent, but
No,
what do you think?
you literally inspired me with you posting 30 days, because as a social media manager, I tend to neglect my own socials. So I was like, oh my gosh, I'm
Yeah.
so proud of you. And like, so I was like, you know what? I'm not doing every day on the weekends, but I'm trying to do 5 times a week. But like, you just literally just inspired me. I'm like, I cannot neglect my own social media. I just like, so anyway, that was a
Yeah.
side. But I completely agree. If you're going to experiment with content, you do need to post more, just because also, well, one, posting more, it'll push out your content more. Two,
Yeah.
it's just a chance of your target audience reaching your content. So it's a
Yeah.
great kind of, yeah, get more content out there and experiment and see what
You can
sticks.
like actually see it. I feel like you can actually start to see what works, because if you don't post enough, it's like you can't really tell. You're like, oh, that one did good. I don't really know why, but like you're not giving yourself the opportunity to like post it again and again and see if it's really sticky or why it was working. So I don't know, but yeah, I'm a big believer in experimenting. And when I first started out as a social media manager, I was like, you don't have to post that much, which you don't. Like, you don't have to post that much. You can post 3 times a week, you'll be fine. But
Yeah.
it was also interesting because as I took on all these clients and started posting more and more for myself and them, I was like, oh, okay, like I see the benefit of posting more. Like it's clear
Yeah.
because now you can really learn.
And I think making it like I believe that like quantity and quality, like in order to post so much content, it can't just be like, it has to be a value. It has to be all the things we just talked about. Like it
Yeah.
has to still be value based,
Yeah. It
but
can't just be shit.
which, if you have a social media manager or, you're taking our tips, that you're not going to do that moving forward. But
Yeah.
I just think making sure that it's valuable too. But I definitely agree. I used to say the same thing starting out. Like, you don't have to post every day. You can post 3 times a week, which you can, but you're really not going to see substantial results.
Yeah.
And
You're just not.
yeah, and it's just kind of how it is. So
It depends on
maybe,
your goals. Like if your goal is to just like simply exist on social media, which is a great goal for some businesses, especially businesses that aren't getting business from Instagram. They're like, I really don't get business from Instagram. I don't care to, but I just want to like have the social proof that I exist. It's like,
yeah,
great, post 3 times a week. But if you're really trying to like build a legit community and get sales off of social media, like it does take a little bit more than that.
yeah,
Um, yeah. And I was talking actually to my coach this week, and I was talking about how like the first 30 days that I posted, I was like, okay, this is kind of hard. Like it was easier than I thought and harder than I thought in different ways. But then now it's just a habit that like I post every single day. And once you get to that point, your strategy is so like in flow with who you are that you don't have to think that hard about your content. Like at the beginning, you're being really strategic and really thinking hard, but over time, you start to be like, I just know how to say this. I don't need to revisit my strategy document because like I just know that this is like the good content. So it's kind of nice once you build up that consistency or you build up enough posts or enough confidence that now you're not like having to be the most strategic person because the strategy just comes more naturally.
yeah, yeah, because and I think you've been doing it for more than 30 days, but if you're a business owner, like, and that's probably why it's become a habit, because
Yeah.
that's why 75 hard is a thing, because it takes 75 days for something to become a habit if you do it
Yeah.
consistently. If you're a business owner, creator, and you are managing your socials on your own, just like make it a challenge for yourself to post every day for 75 days. Say Monday, I'm going to plan out the content for next week. Tuesday, I'm going to record the content. And Wednesday, I'm going to write the captions and actually like
Yeah.
time block these things. I know we're like totally going off topic of settle selling, but this is
Who
just like
cares?
strategy for people to like actually stay consistent with it and just kind of time block the tasks for social media so that it's not like you're doing it all in one day, because then you'll probably
Yeah.
never do it. And then do it for 75 days. And then I know it's easier said than done, but once you actually time block these things and make it a consistent habit, it becomes so much easier. And like you said, the strategy is so ingrained in your brain that it does become easier, the more you do
Yeah.
it. And then you get to analyze what your target audience is liking, what they're not liking, and play off of that. And also like repurposing content, like repurpose your caption, like
Oh, yeah.
make a reel into a carousel, make like this idea into a storytelling piece, make the educational into like more, so there's so many ways to repurpose that too that make it easier.
Yeah.
It
I
can be an
love that.
episode.
No, I love it. That's why I love listening to podcasts, and that's why I love having a podcast is because it's like you just get so much more information. Who cares if you went off track? Nobody
Right.
cares.
No, I know. I tend to do all the time.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, this has been literally such a good conversation. I just have one more question, the spicy one, before we leave, and that is, what's one piece of advice you wish you could give your younger self?
Okay, so I feel like there's two. I really thought on this one, and I'm like, okay, so there's two. The first one I would say is to keep my blinders on, like keep your blinders on when you're starting off. And that goes in two different kind of aspects. Like one is the business side. So, I think it was like after 8 months of my business, like things were happening in my personal life, and I just really wanted to like do the digital nomad thing. This is just a personal experience. So like I wasn't scaling my business as much as someone who I started with was, but that was
Yeah.
okay. I think I just like put so much pressure on myself, but at the time that's really what I needed for myself and like in my life at that time. So just like not comparing like where you're at, because there are so many different circumstances. Like that person could be working every weekend, like, and you have stuff going on in your personal, like, so just not comparing in that sense in the
Yeah.
business aspect. And then the second is not looking at other people's content for inspiration. I feel
Oh
like
my
that
gosh.
was like the biggest kind of setback for my own content. And you don't even realize, like, I think you just scroll so much that subconsciously you're taking in all of this like content and information and then like repurposing it like subconsciously. So I think finding inspiration in your own life and your own experiences, your own client experiences, and using that as content, and just like literally in life, like, and when I say that, I mean, again, like that's a whole other tangent, but not finding inspiration by scrolling your feeds, I think, is a huge
Yeah.
one.
Or like follow people that are like not in your niche or whatever, so that if you are getting content ideas, it's like not from your industry. It's like from a different industry that you're like inspired by. I think
Well,
that's huge too.
yeah, and like following people that are kind of ideal clients or that you want in your target audience, because then you're going to look to see what they're posting and take content from that. Of,
Yeah.
again, you can like hit their pain points, or hit, as a social media manager, I can say, okay, they're posting this, they should transform that into this, and kind of using content that way.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second one I would tell myself, one more, is to invest in a mentor and not maybe other things that I invested in the beginning that I maybe thought that I needed, but I didn't really need that at the time. I think like having a mentor would have been so much more helpful and like what I needed, other than the other things that I thought I needed.
Yeah, I agree with that too. I got a coach at the beginning of this year, and she's just helped me so much with that. Like, absolutely. And I took some courses before that, and the courses were good, but I really like having that one-on-one support. Again, it is more expensive, so it's like you may not be in that place right when you're starting out to afford that. But I agree with you. Like mentors are awesome, and you can even find mentors in people that you don't have to pay. Like before I hired a coach, I have this community of social media managers that I would like reach out to and be like, "What do you do in like this circumstance or that circumstance?" And they would give me free help, which was so nice. And I never expected that. I always prefaced it with like, if you want to charge me for this, like let's do it. But here's
Mhm.
my question. And a lot of times they would just be like, oh, like no problem. This is the answer, which I do for
Right.
people all the time because I'm like, if you just have a question, I'm going to answer it.
Right.
It's
I'm
all
like,
good.
$50 per question.
Yeah. Right. So you can
Like that.
totally find mentors in like, in friends or in your community too, I feel like.
Yeah, for sure.
First, I want to say thank you so much for being here and listening to my podcast. It means the world to me, and I just appreciate this community more than you could ever know. If you love this episode or a previous episode that you've listened to, go ahead and head to the leave a review link in the show notes and leave us a review. We would really appreciate it, and we're so glad that you're here. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, that was so awesome. I'm so glad that you came on the podcast. I will link Nicole's things, her Instagram, everything in the show notes. And we're so glad that you wanted to come on the podcast today.
Thanks for having me. I know, I feel like we talked about so much good stuff, so hopefully it was helpful for everybody.
Yeah.
But thank you for having me on. I always love chatting with you. It was so fun.
Yes. Thank you. Bye bye.